Hello everybody, this is Gary, and I'm going to go through the CAT survey that we did, the safety perception survey that we did a few months ago. The survey, again, we did this several months ago, and we had 46 total participants, 31 employees, 5 supervisors, and 10 managers. And of course, these types of things are statistically validated, and they use a measure of percent positive responses. Those are in quotation marks because some of the percent positive, some of the responses to questions are actually no as the positive response. I know that's confusing, but I think it'll clarify as we go through. So there was they also prepared a gap analysis between the employees, supervisors, and managers, and then compared our data against a multitude of other industries that had taken this before. So let's get into it. Before we get too far down, I want to tell you just kind of what ERS is in charged to do with the data that we got from CAT. First, we've looked at the report findings with the management team, and also that second bullet with the safety committee. The items that scored under 80, and that's different than vanilla CAT requirement, requires us to look at it and try to come up with a corrective action, and then share this information with the safety team and solicit input from everybody at the site on ways to resolve some of those less than 80% positive scores. So then those will go to Randy for approval, and then submit to corporate safety by the end of the year, and then work on those until just before we take the survey again in May of next year. That being said, this is supposed to be a semi-humorous side, so we'll go over the GSM. That's my simplification methodology. First and foremost is that you'll see some other numerical categories on some of the slides that differ from, like I said, what CAT uses, and for ES we've decided to go with anything that was below an 80% positive. I hid some of the slides to just to make it less confusing, I guess. And anyway, anybody can get a full copy of this presentation. It's on the server, and if you want it directly, let me know. So these are the safety culture indicators, and I know we answered a bunch of questions, and each one of those questions would feed one or more of these indicators. So I won't read them all. Maybe I'll highlight a few. Communication at the organization, employee discipline, or just discipline for anybody, hazard corrections, employee involvement, how do we bring on and onboard new employees, operating procedures, and then the last one, support for safety. Anyway, those are the ones, again, the questions feed into these one or more, and that'll, I think I've got an example of that here shortly. So like I said, these are the numbers that the top part is what CAT uses typically. So they have 3 categories: strong performance over 90, under 75, and immediate improvement, and then 75 to 89 improvement. And then they also have a perception gap that I'll show you, and then we'll move on from there because we're not using it in EnergySolutions per se. So what we're using is simplified to be under 80% positive requires attention. So the perception gap really is just a measure, and you can see the little visual up there showing that different people in different roles have different perspectives of things. And I guess if your culture is in tune, I would say, then you won't have big gaps between managers, supervisors, and employees. Again, as I mentioned, I'll show you this, but we're not really using it in our use of the CAT survey. Okay, so this is a composite for Erwin, and there are reports available for the company as a whole. And in fact, I was reviewing the Stop and Think materials this morning and noticed that some of the information for the company as a whole is included in that. But this one we're looking at is just ERS, and as you can see, this has our score and by indicator and the 3 employee groups on the left-hand area with green, amber, and red, with the CAT indicators down below that. And also to the right you can see the percent perception gap that was calculated, and the metric down there at the bottom is greater than or equal to 14%. Was kind of a single cutoff for that, rather than the 3 that are on the other side. So that being said, I'm just going to focus down to what we're going to be looking at as a site, and that is the 3 items that are in the blue box up here. So the indicators are discipline, awareness, awareness programs, and recognition for performance. And the 3 employee groups: employees, supervisors, and managers. As you can see, all of us were in the red on the top one, and all amber on the second, and then a mix on the third one, variability. So anyway, and again, you can see down there at the bottom the number of people who responded. And this is just a different look of that same information, and it's the bottom 10 indicators, so the lowest scoring, and it's in, ordered by the first column there. And you can see there is some variability. Let's just, look at the number 10. So for employees, your 10th lowest was employee training. For supervisors was communication, and for managers it was support for safety. So just a view of that. Again, if you want to study that in more depth, by all means, the information is available to you, and if you want one of us to go through any of it with you, feel free to ask us. Okay, so here's our top 10 questions. The opposite side of that same coin. And as you can see, they're all green but one, and actually down to the middle there, they are the questions are all 100% except for that 180. So I don't know. Let's just look at start at the top to kind of make sure we understand what we're looking at. The question, and that's question number 42, and it says, do you initiate action to correct hazards? And we all said, 100% of us said that responded to that question said we do. On number 41, do employees caution other employees about unsafe practices? And again, 100% across the board there. Let's jump down to the last one. Again, two out of the three employee groups were 100%. It says, do supervisors discuss incidents and injuries with employees involved? And I think these are normally first notifications and are discussed probably multiple times, depending on what kind of meetings you might attend. So that's just another view of some of the questions, and again, just an indicator. So our bottom 10 questions were, and let's, you can tell most of them are red. We've got one green in there and so forth. We've got a real low one there, 9.7 on question number 4. And by the way, I guess at this point, I'll notice the footnote down below the chart. That question number 4 is in bold font, and it says down at the bottom there, negative, positive questions appear in bold. And that is that a no response indicates a favorable perception. So when they ask the question, would a safety incentive program cause you to work more safely? And let's just let's look at the supervisors. 80% of the supervisors said no. Thus, the positive favorable perception is a no answer, and 20% said yes. There's not a lot in here that have that. You see on this sheet there's actually 3. Question number 5 and question 32 as well do that, ask that same type of question where no is the answer they're looking for. So again, just to show you the variability in some of the questions that were in the survey. Okay, so our benchmark for comparison, and this is looking at, let's see, so these are excluding managers and supervisors on that first column for us. So that first column are our employee scores, and it would be the same that was shown in that first chart that I showed that had the row group deviations as well. And the second column here is against all employee takers from all companies. So there have been hundreds of companies that have taken this survey and gone through this process. So I guess the takeaways from this slide are that generally we had slightly more positive response compared to others who have taken it. Maybe the combined score would be best way to look at it. Down at the bottom where we had an 86 and everybody else had a 78.4. Again, this is all types of companies, so as you can imagine, I don't guess this surprises me, but it does sort of demonstrate to me anyway, and you may have a different take on this, that we've been working on safety and trying to improve our processes and our performance. Again, I'll go on. You can talk about any of these slides probably for a long period of time, but okay. So this is the supervisors, and again, I think probably the same thing could be said there as we saw on the previous slide, and that is that generally speaking, that ERS had a more positive view of our safety activities than other companies. And the same again with the manager comparison. Although it's pretty obvious here that maybe some of our managers have rose-colored glasses on. That's a joke, by the way, and that would probably include me. But anyway, again, the same general takeaway that we generally had a higher percentage positive than other companies. Okay, this is kind of just a general slide, a safety slide, and it talks about those things that are kind of the foundation of safety performance, of accountability, recognition, communication, supervisor performance, discipline, and investigation. And those will influence the number of unsafe acts and conditions that you have, and thus the result in minor injuries, more severe injuries, and then fatalities at some point. This is the up the top, the Heinrich triangle, and it's just a way of viewing safety performance in an organization and what the contributors are that will influence the result. The 6 levels of safety, again, this kind of goes along with that. Those who are at a level 1 are reactive. They have very high incident rates and are very focused on compliance, work orders, and so forth. The next level up is, they've titled it level 2 is what we see, and so that's doing a little more proactive things such as observations, job safety analysis, near-miss reporting, and so forth. As you go up, or actually as you go to lower incident rates, you notice that there's a difference in the type of things that you're focused on. At level 3, which would be a moderate rate, we have metrics in place and safety accountabilities that we adhere to. When you get to low, you start seeing the cultural word in there for the first time, and it talks about what we believe. And then very low is when you get to an engaged team. That's where everybody's looking towards our safety performance and making a contribution to having safe operations. And then the last step would be how we being a leader in safety culture and approaching our goal of 0 injuries. Again, just another way of looking at safety culture and the items that influence it. So this has a kind of two sides here. The left side is talks about organizational change and what could be a success or a failure point. I won't read all this, but as you can see, the two adjacent to each other at the top are complacency or guiding coalition. On the second tier, it's underestimating the power of vision, and a failure point would be under-communicating a vision. Permitting obstacles to block the vision on the third tier, and failing to create short-term wins that will create some inertia for further activities. And then declaring victories too soon. This is a safety improvement is really no different than business process improvement or any other thing that we try to attain, and that is through a continuous improvement model. These are the 6 criteria for safety excellence, and you'll see these again, but it's and some of them intertwine with other things you've seen, especially, for example, the DPP elements that are posted in the hallways, that top management's visibly committed to safety, that middle management's actively involved, and frontline supervision is performance focused, that employees, and that includes all those above, are actively participating, and that the systems we put in place are flexible to accommodate the different sites and the different cultures, and then just changes that take place with personnel or operations, and then that we view safety systems and the activities in a positive light. So again, those are things that probably are not new to any of you, but just to point those out. This is one I put in there when we went through it as a management team. This is something that I learned as a little kid, and I think it still holds true though, and that's Roy Rogers up in the top. My hero then, and probably one of them now, actually. It takes courage, takes pride, takes us to try to finish what we start and do what has to be done. Sometimes that's not nice or comfortable, but it can be approached in a caring manner. Be like this next one. Be tough and fair. When you make a promise to somebody, keep it. Ride for the brand. Ride for work for our company. Work for ERS. Talk less and say more. I guess that means what Grandma Shrum taught me. Got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in that proportion. And you say more by talking less because you're listening. And remember the bottom line that some things just aren't for sale, and that is our caring for each other at the workplace and making sure we each go home every day as good as or better than we came in to work that day. So that's the end of this presentation, and I'll put some more information together on the actual deliverables that we put together through the safety committee and broke out into various teams and then wrote those up. Thanks for your time and attention. I appreciate it.